Welcome to Voice of the Nation. There is no deny that China is a very important player of world economy. But in the past few years, even before COVID-19 arrived, the GDP of China has steadily declined, and it gets worse after the pandemic began. And now, despite the fact that countries around the world has adopted living with COVID-19 policy in order to open their borders and stimulate the economy, China is still trying to use zero COVID-19 policy with lockdown and quarantine measures, which prevent the economy to grow. So we will try to find out what will happen to Chinese economy under this circumstance. Our guest today is Dr. Phaichit Wibunthanasan, Vice Chairman and Secretary of Thai Chamber of Commerce in China. Welcome, Dr. Phaichit, to our program. First of all, let me ask you, what is the latest economic situation in China?
Well, the latest is just last week, the Chinese government just announced the economic growth of, well, slower down from the first quarter, but averagely, the first half of the year is about 2.5%,
Okay.
compared to, the same period of last year. It's well, there are quite a number of positive and negative sign, of the first half of the year. I think the major reason is maybe because of the emerging of the pandemic once again. It is normally sporadic, outbreak here and there, this year already. But anyway, during the April and May, the outbreak in especially major city like Shanghai, which is the major economic cities, of China, is maybe comprised about 4% of the total GDP of China, uh, have almost I would say full lockdown. Because China later on we can discuss, but China recently they do not use the word full lockdown. In China, they probably use the word like mini lockdown also. But
Okay.
in Shanghai, of those 2 months, it's almost full lockdown. So it affects the economy, in a wide range, because we're talking about 2 months of closing down a number of factories, the lockdown, in Shanghai, we are talking about like 30 million people, maybe 20 something million people are locked down. So a lot of economic transaction, during that period, dropped tremendously. There
Okay.
were only a few cars, sold, during those 2 months. These kind of things, of course, affect many economic engines. For example, the domestic consumption, domestic tourism, even the investment, as you mentioned. So the in general, there was the drop in the economic growth rate of the second quarter of the year. So total averagely, so we are talking about 2.5%, in the first half.
Okay. And especially in the lockdown in Shanghai, because there are many foreign companies and factories in Shanghai and also around the area. Uh, how does the lockdown affect this foreign company?
Of course, Shanghai is the big living room, that welcome all the foreigners, to invest in China, since the open up of the countries, back 4 decades ago, basically. So it affect uh, a wide scale, to a number of foreign investment, into Shanghai, or even not only Shanghai but also in the Yangtze River Delta area.
Okay.
Uh, so if we look at this point of view, we also have learned that there are a number of surveys, asking, you know, foreign investment who already invest in Shanghai and the Yangtze River Delta, about 15 to 20% of them, you know, respond that, they plan to even withdraw the investment from China to somewhere else if
Okay.
the Chinese government still continue to use the zero COVID policy.
Okay. And after lockdown in Shanghai, then there's a lockdown in Beijing, and now Wuhan is the latest city in China under lockdown. And Wuhan is the first city that was reported the outbreak of COVID-19 in late 2019. Why do you think that Chinese government is so determined to use lockdown and quarantine measures despite its impact to the economy?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that there are quite a total picture of differences, between the China and other countries. When we talk about China, we talk about 1.4 billion people, 20 times, more than what we have here in Thailand.
Yes.
Uh, so there are, and right now, well, in China, most of the people, almost 60% of the people, they are urbanized. So in the city, there are, I would say, the number of people per areas is quite huge. So if there is any like COVID-19 infection, it could widespread, in a very short period of time.
I see.
And according to the Chinese government, they put health issues as a very top priority. So they think that they cannot allow, their people to be infected or even to have a serious condition and even pass away. Of course, with the COVID-19, I think it had saved a lot of new infection, serious condition patient, and even the death of the Chinese people. There were a number of research saying that, uh, let's say if the Chinese government start changing, the policy from the zero COVID policy to the so-called coexisting policy, which is
Living with
by
COVID.
allowing the COVID to live with the people or the people to live with the COVID. The number of people, who are infected will be like 100 times higher, or even the number of those who have the serious condition, affected by the COVID-19 would be huge. But so
Okay.
far in China, there were only about 14,000 people who have serious condition. When we talk about 14,000 from the total number of population of 1.4 billion, it's only 0.1%. So it's reduced the risk, from the COVID-19 infection, in a wider scale as well.
Okay, so given the bigger population of China, that's why Chinese government take the COVID-19 measures very seriously. But what about the people? Do they frustrated about the lockdown because regular people also cannot do business as usual?
Yes, there were a number of people who were frustrated, on this kind of policy as well. But in general, people still happy and willing to support, the implementation of this policy because they realize that whatever the government trying to implement is for the best benefit of the local people, right?
Okay.
They also look at, from another angle. without the policy, I mean the zero COVID 19 policy, many economic transaction could not happen. If you look at the last year number economic figures, China grew at 8.1%, compared to last year, compared to the year before. So that could not happen without the zero COVID policy. So from this angle, they also realize that if the government are able to fully control, the new infection, the economy could still proceed smoothly in the
Okay.
future as well.
Okay, and for Thailand, we also do a lot of trading with China. Can you explain how the pandemic and the lockdown affect the trading between China and Thailand?
Normally, of course, it would affect your, direct and indirectly. Okay, the direct effect could be especially for those who have not trade with China, because it's very difficult right now for you to for any business person to travel from Thailand to China, or even from China to Thailand. So
Okay,
the limitation blocked the in-person, communication, or maybe relationship, because we are in the East. We believe in the, personal relationship.
personal trust.
But for those who already in the market, okay, before the COVID-19, their market expand, tremendously, you know.
Okay,
But some of them also could affect the I would say the importation of the products. Maybe a few months ago, we probably have heard that some of our Thai fruit, especially durian, stuck at the entrance, the gate, between our neighboring countries and China. This is because the Chinese government increased the, I would say, inspection procedures in order to make sure that there would not be any COVID-19,
infection.
attached with
Yes.
those products, imported products.
Okay, and given your experience that actually it is quite important for people, let's say Thai people, if you want to do business with Chinese people, that the face-to-face discussion is very important to gain personal trust, right?
Correct.
Okay, and because of COVID-19, because of the restriction of traveling, Thai people cannot travel to China, and Chinese people also cannot come to Thailand. So there is no face-to-face meeting, and that is the barrier to our trading relationship.
Yes, I would say it's more difficult, for the Thai and Chinese business person, to meet in person. Okay,
Okay.
but unfortunately, we have had, the online program, to help at least, expedite the process of communication. Like even like today, interview, it could not happen, without this kind of StreamYard or whatever, Zoom or whatever other use. But I still believe that after the COVID-19 incidents, the trade or even other economic, collaboration between Thailand and China will be tremendously increased.
Okay.
Because we're talking about the trading transaction, but there are still also investment or even tourism.
Yes.
That before the COVID, we are welcoming more than 10 million, Chinese tourists visiting
Chinese
Thailand.
is our number one foreign tourist.
That's right. That's right. And I do believe that, after the COVID, disappear, or if the Chinese government adjusts the policy, this kind of tourist business could once again resume, and will be even, in a higher in terms of number of tourists, and in terms of the amount of money that they will spend here in Thailand.
Because I'm sure that Chinese people they cannot wait to travel outside China also, right?
Yes,
They are also waiting for the quarantine to be over.
you're right. You're right. A number of my colleagues and friends, they all want to, I mean, miss Thailand. They miss Thailand so much. They would like to come, to enjoy the white sea sand, warm
Yes.
water, warm weathers, and even the food and the smile of Thai people here.
Okay.
So
Can
that's
I
why
ask?
I say, if once, the post pandemic, I would say, you will see more and more Chinese tourists here visiting Thailand.
Okay.
But the format could be changed. They may not be coming in a big group, but rather in a smaller group. But
Yes.
this is the better quality tourists in the
Okay.
future. That's why I say they could spend more money here in Thailand, okay,
Okay.
in the future as well.
And can I ask you that how many days of quarantine that the China is implementing now? Like, let's say if I want to go to China right now, how many how many days of quarantine must I take?
Okay, let me give you the broader pictures from Wuhan uh, pandemic. All right, the outbreak. Then we start. Chinese government start with 14 days
Okay,
minimum,
in the beginning.
if any, in the beginning. Then if there is any like infection in those destination or cities, then they add another 7 days. If
Okay,
it's a high risk, they add another 7 days. That means it could happen that you are quarantined or locked down for 28 days,
one
okay,
month. Yes.
for about almost 1 month.
Yes.
Then after August 2021, okay, the Chinese government start relaxing, with the new technologies of the system. So they adjust and launch a new policy, so-called the dynamic zero COVID policy. By doing so, they reduce the scope, they reduce the areas, they reduce also the I would say the expenses that the Chinese government have to bear on those. For example, if there is any infection in any cities, in the past they locked down the whole cities.
Yes.
But after the dynamic zero COVID policy, they start to lock down by communities or district. In other
Okay.
words, in a smaller scale, in a smaller areas. So this also have saved a lot of budgetary burdens, to the Chinese government, because before even the local people there, they say, oh, we are not in a war, with the Russia and Ukraine crisis, but the Chinese government bear, huge burden on the healthy issues because they're not doing the ATK like in Thailand. They
Okay.
use RT-PCR,
More precise.
more precise. And
Yes.
and you mentioned about Wuhan just this week. Okay, right
Yes.
now 1 million people are locked down and PCR test. That's a lot of burden.
Yes.
However, just last month they start to adjust another relaxation of the policy by reducing the minimum 14 days to 10 days. Okay, so now basically it's only 10 days. If you travel to any cities that there is no infection, right, you will be quarantined for 10 days. They also allow at a certain point, a certain level, that you may lock down here in Thailand. But basically, let's say you lock down in Thailand for 5 days in the
Yes.
specific hotel. Then you travel to China, you lock down for another 5 days. Okay.
Okay.
So I think with the next relaxation, it could, be possible for the tourist business to be assumed, to be resumed.
Okay.
Okay,
Because
and I do hope that it could come as early as the latest of this year, or maybe before the next Chinese New Year's, because
okay.
as you mentioned, a number of I would say tourism business here in Thailand, they are all waiting for the Chinese tourists these days.
Okay. So now the quarantine period is 10 days.
Yes,
Okay, so that maybe for business people, if they want to do business with in China, it's something that they can choose to go and spend 10 days in quarantine and then come out and then carry on their business. But for normal traveler, they might have to wait until the
right,
period
right.
is shortened further. And
Because 10 days is too long, for tourism business,
yes,
right?
but for business
We
people,
have only 5 or 7 days holiday.
yes.
You travel there, we have to be locked down for 10 days, then it's gone. All the holiday, that we have in hands are gone, right?
Okay. And what do you think is the next step of Chinese economy if COVID-19 still not disappear?
Well, after the Shanghai incidents, on May 31st, last May, okay, the Chinese government only launched 50 measures in order to stimulate the economy, okay, and effective from the very beginning of June. All right, many of these measures will be last until the end of the year. So I do hope that, let's say, even though they're growing at 2.5% in the first half, in the second half, I'm sure that they will grow at a faster pace, but depends whether they can achieve the 5.5% uh, goal or not, the target that they have set. It's another thing, because if they want to grow, say, 5.5%, averagely this year, that means they have to grow in the second half at the rate of about 8.5%, which is very challenging. I don't say that it's not impossible, because a lot of things is in the hand of the Chinese government, but the Chinese government may not choose that way, because it may cause another repercussion. Like, for example, maybe the bubble in the real estate economies, etc. So I would expect that, if they can grow at 7.5% in the second half of the year, that means totally we are talking about 5%, of this year. And just a few weeks ago, Prime Minister Li Keqiang talked to the international communities, in the international forum. He started selling the idea that the Chinese government, China will grow, at the flexible rate. In other words, the 5.5%, achieving, is not the only KPI for the Chinese government to achieve, but rather there are so many aspects. For example, the degree of happiness of the people, or even the environmental issues, etc.
Okay. And my last question: have you talked to some of the Thai businessmen that have business in China? That do they have any concern in particular in this time?
Yes, our Thai Chamber of Commerce in China holds several meetings, in the past 2.5 years. Basically, I would say every quarter we have to have a small forums, discussing about the progress, the development, the change in the policy, or even your point, the effect, on the Thai business. The our most recent discussion was that all the Thai business person still, have a very high trust in the Chinese economy. They all believe that the Chinese government will be able to handle, the economic situation professionally and effectively. So even though the economy, slow down in the first half of the years, especially the last quarter, they still have certain that the Chinese economy will pick up, very soon. So they are not gonna. There's no even one Thai company that saying that they would like to withdraw from China. Many of them say this could be our good opportunities. You know, while others are pulling out, the stage could belong to the Thai business firm. So this is could be the good timing for us to expand the investment there in China.
Okay, and we hope that the Chinese economy will recover soon because if the Chinese economy is strong, it will benefit a lot of Thai businessmen in China as well. Thank you, Dr. Paichit, for talking with us today.
Thank you, thank you,
ขอบ
thank
คุณ
you,
ครับ
and we do hope that we get a chance to discuss the progress of the situation more in the future. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And that's all for Voice of the Nation today. Thank you for staying with us.